What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast, and we are live talking about Agatha All Along. Thank you so much to those joining us on live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching us after the show late at night. And we also thank those joining us on podcast form the next day. My name is TJ Zwarich, and helping me break it down as per usual, co-host of the Comic Corner Pod, Damon Gray. How you doing, Damon?
Doing dandy. Doing magical. How are you?
Well, I mean, I'm doing pretty well. I had muted myself because I heard my dogs were barking, and I kind of thought you were going to go on for a little longer than that. But
I
that's
can if you want me to.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We got a very exciting guest today. Friend of the pod, multiple-time guest, and authors of one of the best comic book related books you can find, MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios, now available or soon available on paperback, if I'm not mistaken. There's
something this October, in like the next couple of weeks. It's going to happen.
There it is. Dave Gonzales, how you doing?
Hey, doing good. Glad to be back. We were on a text message thread talking about the new paperback coming out, me and Joanna Robinson and Gavin Edwards. And we're like, oh, yeah, we're all really enjoying Agatha. Is Marvel back? And that's our joke to ourselves, because is Marvel back is what we say after most Marvel projects. Not all, but most.
I've been on the never left train on everything except for Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion, like, we were so back as soon as that one was done, and I never had to think about it or cover it or talk about it ever again. But the rest I've been enjoying thoroughly. And before we dive into it, make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, you smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It does wonders for us to help battle the algorithm. We want to reach as many of you lovely people as possible. So smash that like button for us, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let's do a little Whatcha Watchin before we get into the episode. I think we skipped it last week because it was a double episode premiere. We were so eager to dive in. But Dave, we introduced the new segment. So if it's your first time doing it, here's what it is. You can do watching, reading, if you're playing a video game, whatever, really. But we're doing so much content for work. It's nice to sometimes, talk about what we don't have to work on, what we're just doing for love.
Yeah, fair. I could actually kick this off, I think, because this will be pertinent to people right now as you're listening to this. I saw Megalopolis, the new Francis Ford Coppola passion project, vanity project, if you will. It is a very particular type of insane, at least at my screening, and I hear they are selling enhanced screenings. There's a part where there's a person in the theater talking to Adam Driver's character on screen, and they sort of converse back and forth. So I would say that's one of the craziest things I've seen happen in a movie. They're probably only going to do it for like the first weekend if it stays in theaters for longer than that. So if you're listening to this and if that sounds interesting to you, I'm not going to say it's a good movie, but I'm going to say it's a one-of-a-kind theatrical experience. So if you want to plug into Francis Ford Coppola's wavelength and check out Megalopolis this weekend, I would recommend it. It's unique. It's I can't explain it, but it is really interesting to see Aubrey Plaza as a character called Wow Platinum in that movie, and then see what she's doing in Agatha. What a range she has this season.
And if you want to check out a full review, you can check out Ethan Simmy's review of Megalopolis up on agentsoffandom.com. Damon, how about you? Usually for your segment, it tunes in a little bit more to what you've been reading. What you've been watching, what you've been reading.
Watching wise, it's been pretty fun because the Penguin is flipping fantastic, and I'm eagerly awaiting that second episode because that first episode was that good. Reading wise, comics are comicking like they always are. I'm just absolutely waiting for this absolute universe from DC to hit. It's going to be fantastic. We had an interview with Kelly Thompson, who's the creator and writer of Absolute Wonder Woman, so you can go check that out on the channel. But comics I've been reading right now, Hello Darkness is a very fun horror anthology. The latest issue dropped this week. And also we just had a solo review of Dying Inside by the Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy. He just had a comic book that released this week. More of a graphic novel. It's a complete story, so go check that out.
Awesome. Hell yeah. And for myself, I've been playing. I just started Black Myth Wukong as I basically just got through the intro sequence, and that was about it. I finished everything I can do on Star Wars Outlaws until they released the DLC in November. So I moved on to Black Myth Wukong, and in terms of watching, there's been nothing new for me outside of what I'm covering. I'm writing right now for Only Murders in the Building, Agatha, and the Penguin, plus all the podcasts. So I kind of just want to play instead of watch when I got my free time. But I have my wife is in the midst of The Good Wife, only about a season left of that. So I have that. I tune in every now and then when they're watching that, and then the other thing is we've started a rewatch of Avatar: The Last Airbender, almost done season 1 of that one. Is kind of just the on in the background before going to bed show. So that's been enjoyable. But nice, great comment there from Carlos in the YouTube chat on the Pete Wentz book. This ain't a seam, it's a goddamn comic book. Rep to the Fall Out Boy song. That is pretty good. Emma in chat says she's been watching Veep for the first time. That's something that is on my list. And the movie that just got recommended to like the football show I was on right before this, it's called the Roto Grinders Pick Six Show, and we have a daily fantasy tournament at the end of it every week. And the winner assigns to all the other hosts on the show a movie to watch. And it is so perfect because the movie assigned this week is Rebel Ridge, and that is literally number 1 on my streaming movie watch list right now. So next week for our live show, I'll be able to report back what I thought on Rebel Ridge. But everyone's not here for our thoughts on that. They're here for our thoughts on Agatha All Along. And so we will now dive in. Spoiler warning for Agatha All Along, episodes 1, 2, 3. If you haven't watched, tune in afterwards. Hey, you can keep us on mute and chat in the chat if you want as well. But the one thing I want to say for those watching in chat, there was a, release from Funko that got announced, and maybe some character things relevant to the plot, to the story, to the characters were in that. If you have seen them, please don't post anything about it in chat. We're going to try and keep that fully spoiler free, so those of us who haven't seen it can enjoy the series spoiler free. Dave, what have been your thoughts on the series so far? 3 episodes in, are you enjoying it?
I am, yeah. I am occasionally hesitant when they do the 2-episode premiere, because, for instance, on like Rings of Power season 2 over on Prime right now, they did the first 3 episodes at once, and I thought that the series was slightly stronger than that. Usually, what that sends a message to me as a viewer is these are how many episodes we think you need to understand what we're doing here. And so usually I think that's sort of not a show of confidence. In terms of last week's 2-episode premiere, I actually really enjoyed it because it allowed them to do sort of the whole Mayor of Easttown riff, and then sort of generally come out of it and then sort of introduce the Witch's Road, which is the plot that we're going to be dealing with, and Teen, which I assume is a big major plot we're going to be dealing with. So I was delighted here in episode 3 to see the what they call Huge Tiny Lies universe, but to see that we're still going to have some time riffing on how television looks in this story, because I think that's something that it hugely benefits from being a spin-off of WandaVision, and WandaVision benefits from being like the first Marvel TV show that also was about grief, that also was about TV, that came out after the pandemic. There was a confluence of tools that it had that the other Marvel Cinematic Universe series haven't necessarily had to play with, and I'm glad that Agatha is getting to play around in that sandbox. So I was hoping for something like this when they released a whole bunch of the promo posters, and they were all styled after like 80s horror movies, 80s and 90s horror movies. And so I'm excited to see what sort of genres and looks they're going to play in, what aspect ratio changes to expect like this episode has. Because ultimately, I'm a big fan of the story they're telling, but I'm super interested in how this seems to be functioning well as a TV show, where occasionally these Marvel Disney Plus series sort of feel like a character-based lark, an Echo, if you will, where it's just like, yeah, that happened, but like maybe like a 6-part mini movie, whereas this definitely is functioning on an episode to episode TV show. I think you could judge it sort of thematically what it's trying to say each episode. And it was really fun to sort of see one that I guess was Jen's trial, but also them do it in a way where I don't feel like we're locked into a paint by numbers future for the rest of this season, where every episode is a trial. There were so many tiny little mysteries and nods to future mysteries included in this. I'm very impressed. I think Marvel hopefully has learned how to do a simple TV show about witches and special effects. It still looks expensive, but it's slightly simpler than your cape fare.
I couldn't agree more. This definitely is the most television-y show that in a while that it feels like, and not just like you said, a mini series or extended movie that's cut apart into different parts. That's something David and I have chatted about as well. And Agatha very much does feel like that TV show. And I had the thought like, oh, is this gonna get a little bit repetitive as we go with just like, okay, next episode's a trial, next episode's a trial, next episode's a trial. But it's not like the Coven is all that big, and so I don't think it's going to get repetitive. I think we're going to get where we need to go at a very appropriate pace. And it's like you said, there's so much going on with the mystery that keeps me captivated, even if the aspect of a trial is somewhat repetitive going forward, which I don't know. I mean, we do get more trials in episode 4, which we've seen in a trailer. I can say that there's a trial, but I have no idea after that. So I'm with you. I think there's enough with the mystery that's not something that's going to feel overly repetitive. Damon, what do you think of episode 3?
Yeah, episode 3, it's so far my favorite episode of the series, which is a good thing when a new episode drops and that's your new favorite episode. And so far for me, each episode has been an improvement upon the next. And the things that I enjoyed about this episode are things I enjoyed about episode 2, or once when it gets into the crazy spooky things. The things that make me go, ooh, this isn't something we've seen like out of the MCU before. I'm intrigued. There's some scary people going on and scary themes. This is keeping me intrigued. I like that. It's different. It's something that we've only seen in a handful of projects, like Marvel horror of it all. And our very own Ryan Cortero had a great interview with Jac Schaeffer about the MCU horror of it all. And I like the direction that is going when we get that. We didn't get a whole lot of it this episode. I'll be honest, we didn't get a whole lot, but we got some. So I want more, and I want to keep getting more of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. And this is, to me, my favorite episode of the first 4 so far, actually, as well. It just really felt like we were opening new doors for new questions and new potential theories while getting answers at the same time, which I really love. We get aspects of Agatha's past brought up, and it just really feels like a big name drop that we're going to get into a little bit later. That I will just say that like Jac Schaeffer really knows what she is freaking doing with these, because she hears the fan theories and decides to throw them back in our face in a very fun way. And I agree 100% with what Brandon Moore says in chat. Jac Schaeffer is really great at compounding mysteries that have lots of layers. It's like we see in WandaVision as well. It's a show that feels very episodic, that as you go, the mystery unravels as more questions are asked. And it's so interesting the way she does it. Episode 3 was my favorite as well. Dave, how about you?
Yeah, definitely. I more am excited about the potential that it has now that we're actually on the road. Because it does seem like we're at the part of the series where we're doing, the trial's going to provide our self-contained story, but we're still building, on the actual mythology of whatever Agatha All Along is going to ultimately be about. So, like, episode 2 ended like basically being stalked by what I assume are the Salem 7 in crazy ghost form, and here that gets mentioned for like the first 2 minutes, and then we're just on to something else because there's so much more that we have to build on. And so it was fun to see, these characters sort of built out, and in seeing what they fear, sort of get hints at hopefully what's coming up next. But I was also very happy with the sort of like contextualizing the trial again within like a TV show, like a women of a certain age drink wine and talk shit about their life secrets TV show being transposed into Agatha is great. Like, I can't wait until it's like a 80s slasher one or a creature feature one, because then I think we're going to get more of the horror that Damon's talking about, where it's like, this seems like the mild entry to me, just to show what they can do. I can't wait to see what the crazy entry is.
My question to you both, and I have a series of kind of potential for the future questions for you for us to theorize on. And so, Dave, I'll start with you. Do you think Agatha has actually walked the Witch's Road before? Because every time they bring it up, she's kind of like, yeah, this happened and this happened. Let's move on to another conversation.
I think it's possible that it's a whole bunch of like fluff. I think we're getting sort of some hints now of what she actually sacrificed, with the implication that she gave up her kid for the Darkhold. That doesn't seem like it has anything to do with the Witch's Road. At least it would seem weird for the Witch's Road to exact like that sort of toll at you at the very end. That's not how they've been talking about it. It's more about proving yourself, and then at the end sort of like getting some sort of reward. It's not so much like the deal with the devil, maybe literally, that they're talking about it in this episode. So it's very interesting to see that. But then also the glimpses we get of all the other characters, like, Agatha might be the only character that's not secretly another character, is what this episode made me think at like this point, is because we've got these basic ideas, and Agatha even recaps for us at the beginning of the episode, like, Jen wants to be unbind, and Patty LuPone's character wants to reverse her fortune, and Alice wants to find her mom. But like, also, it seems like there's more to that. It's not she wants to find her mom; it's that there's a blood curse on all the women in her family. Jen apparently was bound by having her power taken away by some dude that looks like he's from American Horror Story season 1. Like, I'm interested to see what happens in these sort of storylines as we deepen the characters.
There's so much more with each of their characters, I think, that are going to be unveiled, like there is to Agatha, that I want to know so much more about. With, like, taking it back to the first episode, why can't Agatha absorb Rio's powers? Why are they not allowed to kill each other? Where are those rules coming from? What's the deal with the curse with Alice? I think they probably all have ulterior motives, just like Agatha does, behind that, kind of surface level one of, I want to be unbound, etc., etc. But Damon, what do you think? Do you think she actually walked the road? Because my impression is that, like, maybe that's how the general public of witches think she got the Darkhold. But as you dive deeper to her history, you find out maybe that's not actually the case.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a feeling that Agatha may be a load of crap when it comes to walking down the Witch's Road, because she's, she's got a little bit of that suspicion towards, yeah, we do this next time, obviously, right? So you get a little bit of that, and I don't even know. Maybe there's a layer to that. Maybe there's an intention to that as well, because Agatha is full of layers, and you really never know with her. She could even be playing a trick on the witches to her left and right. You don't know, because I'm getting that feeling too, that like she is full of crap when it comes to that. But at the same time, I'm also questioning myself with that, because I'm like, what if that's what she wants me to think? Everything with this show makes me almost double question. It's like, but what if that's what they want me to think? And in reality, I'm overthinking this.
Yeah.
TJ, you're muted.
That's probably good, because I just yelled so loud in the camera. That's what WandaVision did to us, right? WandaVision made us speculate, and we've seen these interviews with Jac Schaeffer. Again, our own Ryan Cortero had a wonderful one before the episode dropped. But we've seen these interviews with Jac Schaeffer, and said, like, yeah, those fan theories in WandaVision, they got to me. I was thinking, like, was there a problem with my writing that these people are theorizing all these things I didn't think of? And now she realized, like, no, that's just the genre. That's always going to happen. And she decided to play with that going forward for this series. And there's nothing that lays that out more than Mephisto. That was the biggest speculation throughout WandaVision. And now we get the Mephisto name drop here in this episode, I'll pull it back a little bit. The first trial, they see a sunlit, beautiful house. They walk into it. It's the stage for the first trial. As soon as they walk in, they get the outfit change. They're all dressed up like super rich, fancy housewife kind of vibe, leading to the wine drinking, which is poisoned, like which we will get to. But before that, they are interacting with each other, and Jen is telling Teen, Joe Locke's character, Jen, it's her trial, the potion master, but she's talking to Teen, and she says, like, you can't trust Agatha. Rumor has it she gave her son away for the Darkhold. Mephisto could be involved. We've been theorizing Mephisto for a long ass time. We not know, but I think have a pretty good feeling, a pretty good confidence rate based on reports that Mephisto will be appearing in Ironheart. Damon, what do you think question one, will we see Mephisto in this series?
Sure. No, I'm kidding. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think that's a good possibility. Maybe like in a last episode, maybe in a post-credit scene. Who knows? But I do not think we will see like Mephisto as like the big bad of like this show. But I do think Mephisto is playing a part in this show from like behind the curtain almost.
Dave, what about you? Do you think we will see Mephisto? Do you think we will see Marvel's version of Hell? And do you think we already saw it in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness when America Chavez and Wanda were fighting? Do you think that is all going to connect? That's going to be the same fiery place that we saw?
I am much more with David, where like right at the end we might get a peek or a silhouette or some such thing. I don't think we're going fully down the Mephisto hole, which is only to say that like I would like when we do get to Mephisto for, like we were assuming with WandaVision, like he is the big bad. He's the reason for us showing up. Here with Agatha, I feel like there are so many questions just about how this particular type of magic works in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're not. This felt more like a we knew you were looking for this name drop in the WandaVision, and we're going to acknowledge that as writers. None of the necessarily the mysteries are pointing me in the direction of like a devil force, because like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while since I've rewatched all of WandaVision, but in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Salem witch trials were actually the witches turning on the other witches. And then, so it's not like we are associating the Marvel Cinematic witches necessarily with like the devil, like we are in our world or in a satanic sort of panic. So I think having it all linked to Mephisto just because it's a magic show, I think is an assumption they would like us to make. But like Damon was saying, I think the show has more going on in terms of what it's talking about and the corner of the Marvel universe that it's investigating.
I will say this, TJ. I do think Mephisto is going to play a much bigger role in, let's say, the Scarlet Witch / Young Avengers saga that it seems that they're going to be telling.
I agree with you 100%. That's the same page that I'm in. I think he's going to be more of a background character in this series if he is someone that is even mentioned going forward. I don't know, because I'm avoiding these Funko Pop things, right? And I'm trying to get little hints from Damon, who saw them without getting anything spoiled.
Unintentional, by the way, because Twitter is awful.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking this up after we get off, but I've somehow avoided this.
I don't want to know, but I have been all aboard the Rio Vidal is actually Blackheart, the child of Mephisto theory, because in the first episode, she goes, I have a heart. It's made of black and it beats for you. And it's black and it beats for you. And then in the second episode, you get the little black heart on the list of people in the coven. Now, that absolutely could just be, a reference to the first episode and their former love for each other. but it's more fun to put on the clown makeup and jump on the Mephisto's train and say, that's Blackheart. So when I'm watching these screeners, and I have that theory in episode 2, then episode 3, I get the Mephisto name drop, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening.
Well, you might not be completely out of it, because if I were to say, is there a hint towards a Blackheart in the series, it would be what Jen says. Maybe she like traded the kid to Mephisto. So like her son could now be Blackheart, could be what Rio's taunting her with, like this sort of thing. Like I don't think you're necessarily it. I just don't think it's necessarily Rio, because why gender bend that character if you don't have to? Like I don't like. There's so many Marvel characters that are more malleable.
Awesome.
But like I think what Jac Schaeffer is saying about learning about how to, navigate this sort of culture of the fans watching it and wanting certain things from her series when she might be thinking about it as a TV series and we're all watching it as Marvel fans, is I think at some point when we figure out who all these mystery people are, we're going to be like, of course. Like, I could have noticed the same way with, like, in WandaVision, as soon as people started pointing out Agatha's brooch, it was like, okay, there's Agatha Harkness. Like, I think the show could be good without necessarily having to have surprises. I've been doing a lot of thinking about Lost because it was its 20th anniversary last weekend. And sort of like the difference between that show when it would just do like a twist versus when it would give you an answer that you were sort of already suspecting and be like, you're right. And how sometimes that second one even is not only fosters like sort of conversation in between episodes, but is more fulfilling because you kind of guessed it. They gave you the tools to guess it. They're not trying to pull a rug out from under you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense there as well. I like the potential Nicholas Scratch as Blackheart theory. I hadn't considered it from that angle before, but I do like that quite a bit. And my only counterpoint to why gender bend that character was because Aubrey Plaza probably walked in and was like, I can play Shadow King. I played Shadow King.
Right.
I can do this too. I did Shadow King and Legion. I can do Blackheart here. But I do really, really like that theory. Damon, what do you think is going on here? Because we were thinking similarly of like, yeah, maybe she did trade her kid to to Mephisto for the Darkhold. I'm kind of wondering if maybe the reason she hates Rio is because Rio was the kind of errand lady of Mephisto, and that was what created the bad blood between them.
Maybe. I'm more interested in everything that involves teen. That's my intrigue right now, to be honest. And even the Coven themselves, when he's saying his name and the little squiggly line with the sigil goes upon a really messy sigil, apparently. It was not a very good one. With the looks like an M, for whatever reason, is going across his face. Like, that's what I'm most interested in, is how he got himself in this situation.
Well, we do get a little piece of information from him in this episode where he mentions that his mom died 3 years ago, which, as we know, that is when, in the Marvel timeline, when Wanda Maximoff died as well. You did have
that was WandaVision. That was when WandaVision was.
But they said that Agatha's been under the spell for 3 years now.
Correct. So that's when WandaVision was.
I thought that's when she put her back into it.
She's been under the spell since WandaVision for 3 years.
Yeah, I think Wanda's died a little bit sooner, so it's like once she died in Mount Wundagore, that's what allowed the spell to be breakable, which is why we started with. So we're closer to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Okay, I get you. They're saying the start of WandaVision was 3 years ago. Okay.
Yes. So WandaVision started 3 years ago because I think, like, if you line it up, it's like WandaVision starts pretty close after Endgame, so I think they're trying to close that gap for us. And, like, we're past the mourning period. We're now in, like, the new Avengers period. I think Billy's got to be Wiccan. I've thought that since they cast the dude. So that's what I'm looking for here. But again, the show could very easily pull one over on me because it's interesting that, like, he's like, my mom died 3 years ago. I like know how old Billy was when his mom died because I watched that, and that's not him. So who knows what's going on in terms of. I guess we are in the multiverse saga, so who's to say what's going on with any of these characters?
What's more likely? This is a Billy from the multiverse, and his mom was Wanda Maximoff, and she died 3 years ago, or that this is Billy Kaplan, who from the same Earth that Billy Maximoff's consciousness has been magically transferred into. What do you think, Dave?
I mean, it depends on if this project is also going to deal with like consciousness transfer. At some point, that's why I was like writing down things like there's a sigil on Billy's name and like
he has Darkhold stained fingertips. Well, he was probably doing some consciousness transferring too.
Well, later they talk about the tattoo on Alice as like being like protection runes, and we know obviously from WandaVision certain things can happen within like a binding of runes. So I'm trying to come up with all the magic rules here to try to guess what magic rule is going to be important for our big Billy reveal, because he's I don't know, like a Doctor Who season, he's an impossible boy. He probably shouldn't exist the way he does. So I'm very excited to figure out why he exists and what he's doing here.
Damon, what do you think is more likely? A magic transfer of consciousness or a multiversal variant?
TJ, what's the saga we're in right now?
Magical consciousness transfer saga.
It's not that. It's not that one.
The body swap saga. You know.
Yeah. I'm going to lean with the one that says whatever the saga we're in right now. That is the multiverse saga. So, I mean, we've been messaging each other this over the past week on speculating and stuff because that's the fun of this series. And I think one of the things I kind of came down to is I think this is a Billy from another universe who did lose Wanda Maximoff at some point in his life. Maybe when... Who knows? Honestly, I don't know how he would have lost his mom at some point, but I do think that he lost his mom and he's been trying to get her back for the last 3 years. He's been using the Darkhold very much unsuccessfully. When Wanda in our universe destroyed all the Darkholds, he got desperate. And he probably made a deal with the devil that he wasn't ready to make. And in return, with him making a deal with this devil, he had to agree to take a Miss Agatha Harkness down the Witch's Road. Because in order for him to get what he wants, he has to go down the Witch's Road, which is probably like, hey, you need to go down the Witch's Road, but in return, you need to make sure she goes down with you. I think that was more the agreement here.
I like it. That's the type of theorizing I'm looking for. I absolutely love to see it from you, Damon. I made sure to give you a question that was not yes or no, so you could not answer sure. Sure. You gave one of the best answers I've ever gotten, and I love it. When the trial itself starts, it is Jen's trial. She is the potion master of the group, and so they're all drinking some poison wine. Their faces blow up like crazy. It does really reaffirm that Sharon / Miss Hart is literally just Kitty Foreman abducted by witches, and I love it so much. She's the comedic relief throughout the episode, and she is absolutely hilarious. Agatha's being tricky the whole time. She doesn't want to drink anything. We get the Nicholas Scratch flashbacks as soon as she does. And she hallucinates about not only her baby, but the Darkhold. So it does kind of give credence to what Jen said, that perhaps she did, in fact, trade her baby for the Darkhold. Eventually, she drinks it. They use... I said this last time when I was writing my notes, that it's like, here it says teen, here it says Billy, here it says Wiccan. And it's just like, I guess I should be calling him the teen the whole time. But I'm so positive that he's going to end up being Billy that it changes. And so, like, this part of my notes, Agatha inspires Jen to save the day when the potion is going poorly, and they use Wiccan's blood to finish it. So it's, of course, Teen's blood that they use to finish it off. But the whole trial aspect of it, I felt like just zipped by so fast in this episode. Like, it was so... This episode, and interestingly enough, the stuff I'm writing about is all kind of blending together, but the most recent episode of Only Murders in the Building, to me, are kind of the same. They're both super fast paced, where shit's going down at all times, but they reveal so many crucial, important portions to the mystery going forward at the same time. And that's one of my favorite types of episodes of television, where it feels very contained in what they are doing, but the overarching plot is very much affected because of what they talk about and these various things like that. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the episode. But before you know it, it's done. They get through the portal to the next one. They complete the challenge because she brews the antidote with the help of Wiccan's blood, and they're all good. They make it through, except for one of them, because R.I.P. our girl, Miss Hart,
Sharon.
She drank too much of the wine. She was
Who's Sharon?
chugging multiple glasses while others only had one, and they couldn't get her the right amount of the antidote in time. R.I.P. to Sharon.
But who's Sharon?
I started to be like, oh no, Sharon, when her vision was just something from WandaVision. And I'm like, oh, if the deepest this character goes is something I already saw already, she's dead within like the next 30 minutes. Like, that's just like a TV trope. It's like, if you're really enjoying a character, and if she's basically arced out is the term they would use in like a writer's room, where it's like she's done her arc already, then you really got to start worrying about her. But I think, what a way to go out. I think Sharon would be not fine, but she went out at a wine drinking party. That seems somewhat up to her character.
She was terrified at the beginning, but she really bought in after a while. She was like, screw it, I'm part of this team. About halfway through the Witch's Road song, when she started going like this in episode 2, that's when you knew she was fully bought in. But yeah, RIP to Sharon. She had a great run. She was absolutely hilarious. But that's it for the episode, and we're on to.
I think we're skipping a couple important things. May I just add?
Yeah,
what did you think about the visions from each of the witches?
So the only one that stood out aggressively to me, outside of, I don't really want to talk about Alice's because it's, I saw it for like what it leads into in the next episode. So that's a great call, something I should have skirted myself and still asked you guys about. But Agatha was really the only one that stood out heavily to me of the Nicholas Scratch and the Darkhold stuff. I was so focused on that. What about you?
For me, it was Patti LuPone's. Like, going around, we're seeing a fortune teller who's clearly dying of something, and then some creepy being comes up behind her and scares the ever-living crap out of her, and she has to run away. There's something about that, dude.
I guess I kind of just glossed over it because it just seemed like regular scary nightmare, not like ulterior stuff going on like with some of the other characters. I might have dismissed it a little too quick. What do you think, Dave?
I like that vibe. That's like some Guillermo del Toro Italian horror stuff. So whenever we do get more answers about it, I hope the whole episode has that vibe, because that's a genre of film I really dig. Yeah, give me more black lace skull women lurking in the shadows. That sounds great to me.
I think it's probably going to tie pretty heavily to whatever the hell she's yelling about all the time. Like, you know how she almost has that Professor Trelawney from Harry Potter-esque, like, I'm just going to start yelling things right now because of a divination that popped into my head. And so I think it's probably like a lot of those seem to relate directly to Agatha and the Coven. But I think a lot of those, in hindsight, now that you mentioned that, Damon, probably relate to whatever she's dealing with in that vision, in that nightmare.
Yeah, it's I just really love, like Dave said, the vibe of that. And it's the creepy, like the yelling in Italian. It's just, I want more of that. More of that when they were under those hallucinations, and you get that creepy eeriness, and then maybe a jump scare around the corner or something. You never know. But that's the stuff, like, when I'm getting excited for the series, TJ, that's what I want. And that's what I need more of in this. But yeah, when it comes down to like those visions, like you mentioned, sounds like we may get Alice's, like, her trial next or whatever, but we'll see where they go from here.
That is one thing I will say is I think next week's episode is, for me personally, the scariest by a fairly wide margin, the spookiest, the most horror focused, I would say.
Well, I could try to make some assumptions, and maybe you could nod or leave them or whatever. So it seems like we're doing some color theory with the magic. So Patty LuPone's character has we got some yellow going in her, the girl in the yellow dress, that's sort of like the aged walls when she walks around the corner. Jen obviously had some blue. Her flashback was blue. The potion's supposed to turn blue. Where they said the door was the full moon water phase, and there's a blue ocean behind it. So that would leave Jen with red and fire, and those are the images we're going to be working with if next week is Jen's episode. It's the red magic episode, which I'd be excited for because I've been tracking red magic in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's Reality Stone magic. Anything could happen with Reality Stone magic.
I do remember going all the way back to WandaVision, how the showrunners and the creative team specifically said how careful they were about the colors of magic that were being used.
Yeah.
So that's why I was I find it a little strange that Alice's isn't coral, because in the comics she's the Wu is the coral witch. So that's just what, maybe because the coral may be too reddish, it would be confusing, so they wanted to make it more orangey for her to stand out. So I get that, but I do think it is very interesting how the different colors of the magic, the red is the chaos magic or the reality stone, whatever you want to call it. For me, I would look at it more like chaos magic.
Yeah.
And then the purple is the dark hold magic, and Doctor Strange's yellow magic-ish is more of that controlled. So I think it's very interesting how all the colors of the magic
blue,
itself,
which we've seen from
and
promo.
Billy's was blue, which we saw a little bit from the original witches that were trying to take away Agatha's power at the very, very beginning.
And Rio's is apparently green, and it's been established that you need each of these different types of witch magic to enter the Witch's Road, which I find very interesting. And no, that's not something I have any idea of yet. The next episode gets a lot. The only thing I'll say is, the horror stuff, it gets a lot spookier. But that is, I'm in the dark as much as everyone else in terms of the colors, and I'm very, very interested to see where it goes, especially because with teens specifically, what type of magic would he have if it is witchcraft, but also not one of the necessary ones to get into the coven? What type of magic is his blue magic that it wasn't one of the stereotypical, I need a this witch, a this witch, a this witch, and a this witch to open the Witch's Road? If his isn't one of those, what is it? Why is it special? That kind of thing. That's something I have a lot of interest in as well. Was it just the vision aspect of it, Damon, or is there anything else we got to cover before we get out of here?
No, that was to me the last thing that we didn't mention from that episode. I just really enjoyed that episode as a whole. I thought it was a solid episode. It gave me a little bit of the horror vibes that I've been wanting. It progressed the story a little bit, and going forward, I think you both were a little worried about the potential repetitiveness of each episode being a trial. To me, I'm not personally too worried about it, even if we do get each episode as a trial, at least for the next 3 episodes, maybe 4 episodes, because it sounds like each trial is going to be pretty drastically different from the next. Maybe one of them's a puzzle, one of them's more just power based.
I'm pretty sure one of them announced today, I think it was, I don't remember which of the actors, but I think they said in episode 6 there's a bar mitzvah coming.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
So that was someone said one of the actors said their favorite episode of the series was episode 6, but all they would say is 2 words, bar mitzvah.
Interesting.
And so it was the actress who plays Jen. It was Sashir Zamata. It was the actress who plays Jen. Aisha is letting us know in the comments. So that is definitely going to be interesting. And I think Soul makes a great point in chat as well. I do think it's strange how everyone acts like Teen is an amateur, yet he's the one that broke Agatha out of the hex spell.
Yes.
There's definitely more going on with this character than they seem to realize. And I agree with what both of you said, and the chat seemed to be on the same page as well, that of all the mysteries in this show, the mystery of Teen even though we're all sitting here like, it's Billy Maximoff, Kaplan, whichever version, it's Billy, Wanda's son. We still have no idea how we get there. And that's kind of one of the most
to me, it's the how we get
of
there.
mysteries.
Yeah.
I know we get from A to B, but I can't figure out how we could the path that we could possibly get there. So it's a really fun mystery to go along with all the who is everybody, what is going to happen type style of mysteries as well. Dave, where can the people actually final thoughts going forward before we do socials and final future projects, things like that?
I'm excited. I'm very happy with the characters that are holding Agatha up, including, but absolutely not limited to, Agatha herself. I think it's a pretty good TV show, and I'm excited to see where it takes us week to week, which hasn't always been the case with Marvel Television on Disney Plus. So I'm happy when it is. I'm just a pig and shit through October over here.
My final rating for the episode, I was a 9 out of 10, a 4.5 out of 5, and I wrote about it on agentsoffandom.com. And the one reason why I said this one kept away from a 10 out of 10 was because Aubrey Plaza wasn't there, and that absence brought it down a slight little notch for me. And it's like Carlos says in chat, though, we with Miss Hart out of the way, there's a spot open for a green witch on the team, and we know from trailers that Aubrey Plaza's character Rio Vidal is going to be joining that road at some point. So that's my one criticism, but I'm excited for getting more of her in the future. In addition to Agatha All Along, you can find lots of great recaps, reviews, and pieces up on agentsofandom.com. Like I said, I'm writing about Agatha, Only Murders, and the Penguin as well. Fat Thor writing about Rings of Power right now, and we have so many great reviews from the Toronto International Film Festival. One here from Aisha from On Swift Horses, and then a plethora as well from Ethan and Ryan. As you can see, so many different great projects from TIFF. So make sure you check out agentsoffandom.com so you don't miss out on any of the great content we have going. And Dave, it was a perfect time to talk to you about a magical show.
Yeah.
Because one, you are a expert on the MCU, but some could say you're an expert in magic as well, because that's where the next book in your in your resume is taken.
We're deep into researching the history of the Harry Potter franchise, but if you guys want to check out the MCU book, they're very nice. They're paperback. It says with a new chapter here on the cover, or you could go to themcubook.com. That'll take you to our publisher's page. You could order directly from them. It's still good. Still good. I reread it, the most I've reread it in a long time last week, and still good. Very happy with it.
To me, the most important thing, and I couldn't agree more. It is a fantastic book, a must read for any Marvel fan. But to me, the most important thing that this book has done, and Dave, Gavin, and Joe, the wonderful writers, have done, is show the world that no, the Infinity Saga wasn't all figured out from day one, wasn't well planned out. And, they had this great plan before phase 4 and 5. They just don't seem to know what they're doing. And they're making it up as they go. Guess what? They have been the whole damn time. And you can find all the details from it in their book, MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios. You can find it on themcubook.com. Now coming out in paperback in October. Make sure you check it out. Damon, where can the people find you on socials, and what's been popping on the Comic Corner?
So you can find me on socials. My personal is at Damon Tweets. The Comic Corner account is at Comic Corner Pod. If you want more comic-driven content over on the Comic Corner Pod, like I mentioned earlier, we have a fantastic interview up with the one and only Kelly Thompson talking about Absolute Wonder Woman, which is very exciting to come out, and all the different things about this Diana that make her so freaking cool. And also, if DC's not your thing, well, don't you worry, because we talked all about Jeff the Landshark as well. Eisner award-winning Jeff the Landshark, who is Marvel's Baby Yoda, and will be the second they put him on a big screen. That thing's gonna explode. Don't you worry, that will happen someday.
I was at the Edmonton Expo this past weekend, and quick shout out to the people I got to hang out with and chat really for long conversations with there. Amanis Fondi, Emily Swallow, Ross Marquand, Sean Gunn, just absolutely incredible people. But I thought you would find this very interesting. At Ross Marquand and Sean Gunn, they had a panel together, and a little boy goes up to the mic because they had fan questions, and he asked them, "Who is your favorite character that you've never played before within comics?" And they asked him afterwards who his favorite character was, and he answered Jeff the Landshark. So it is it's growing
Jeff
so incredibly fast. There he is right there.
Jeff supremacy.
Jeff supremacy. And so Jeff the Landshark is growing quicker than ever. Check out Damon's interview with Kelly Thompson, the creator of Jeff. And of course, we got so many great shows on the podcast feed right now. It's not just Agatha All Along. It's not just the Comic Corner. We're also got the Rings of Power after show, as well as the Penguin, which will be dropping the day after each of those episodes drop. They won't be live just like this one, but we will be back next Wednesday for our live after show of Agatha All Along episode 4 with our friend Jamie Jac. So make sure you tune into that one because that will be a very, very fun show. Dave, thank you so much for joining us today. You are the absolute best. This has been a pleasure as always. Damon, it's been fine. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. Hit that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Follow the Agents of Fandom on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter. Agents of Fandom everywhere else. We'll see you next week, everyone. Peace.